Welcome home, Sanitarium with Cliff Burton's bass part up in the mix. Coming up next, stick around. Written by James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, and Kirk Hammett, Welcome Home Sanitarium is the fourth song on Metallica's third album, Master of Puppets. Until I heard Cliff's isolated track for this song, I thought his bass part started sooner. It turns out the low frequency on James's bottom strings makes his guitar sound like a bass. When I realized that's where Cliff's track actually started, my mind was blown. On my episode for Fade to Black, I talked about how Cliff was not locking with Lars's kick drum, how he was kind of the third guitarist on the recording. On Welcome Home Sanitarium, the opposite was true. Cliff seemed to have Lars' entire drum track memorized, and had a bass note for every single one of Lars's tom hits and all of the tom fills, and it's like that throughout the entire song. In all of music, there are things on the isolated tracks of songs that are mixed too quietly to be heard on the final recording. In the pre-chorus of Welcome Home Sanitarium, James plays A, G, A, G, and Cliff plays A, G, A, F sharp. Check it out. Here's Cliff. And all together. Coming out of the first chorus, Cliff does a slide that I automated so it would cut through a little bit better. It sounds like this. On the original recording, it sounds like this. I didn't hear it either. Now it sounds like this. Just enough to make it audible. So why automate? I did so for two reasons. One, I don't believe on these recordings that Cliff's bass was that compressed. There's parts where he's loud and parts where he's quiet, and I didn't want to compress this myself. Two, I believe he recorded with new bass strings where the open strings have all the volume and the octaves up higher on the fretboard do not. So in order to make his octaves and his fills audible without having this become bass in your face, I automated so that I could pick and choose what popped out because the low end is very loud and the high end is not. Also notice how Cliff plays against James. James is playing down-picked 16th notes and Cliff is playing against him. Nice little octave fill there. Same thing over here. And then over here, I have Cliff set at a higher volume because he continues to play high. Alright. For every single song I've done in the Re-Remastered series, I've had the enhanced and Cliff set at -2. For this song, I have Cliff at -4. And the reason for that is this bass fill. It's not on the album, it's barely on the isolated bass track. I'm going to de-automate it and solo it, show you what I mean. It's very quiet. So I automated it. This is the original recording. And with headphones you can barely hear it. So now it sounds like this. In this section right here, Cliff pretty much doubles James. Now when James plays the whole note chords, Cliff adds extra notes, because why not, right? Over here, in this section, he does the same thing, but he adds B. Right there, and that's because James is playing a melody that eventually becomes a two-part guitar harmony. Too good. The last 4 fills I automated all happen on 4. pretty cool, but this one's kind of different. For the majority of the song, I had him at -4. This section here, I had him at -3. I brought him back down right here. Because you can still hear him. And then I'm not sure if anybody saw my episode for Hit the Lights, very first episode for the series. Right here, I brought him back up to -3. But I want to bring everything down. Mute the enhanced, lower the remaster. In the beginning of Hit the Lights, he plays this extra note after the drums stop. It's like a little sound check within the song. He does it at the end of this one. Right here. Classic. And right at the end of the song, I brought it back down to -4 because he literally slaps the crap out of the strings. There was one tricky spot in this song. The bass fill at the 3-minute mark had 11 splits in it.
Better can't you tell? No more
And they're all silent too. That was hard. But all told, Welcome Home Sanitarium had a total of 123 splits across 6 minutes and 27 seconds, which equates to approximately 1 split every 3.15 seconds. Compared to some of the other isolated bass tracks I retrieved off YouTube, this was not that bad. Now it's time once again for the in-album Lifeline segment, brought to you as always by Fresh Produce. No, not the brand, the concept. Eat your fruits and veggies. In this segment, I always ask the question, would I trade? If the song that I'm working on has an isolated bass track, would I trade it away for one that doesn't? And if the song that I'm working on does not have an isolated bass track, would I trade it for one that does? In the case of the Master of Puppets album, there are 8 songs, 6 of which have isolated bass tracks. The 2 that do not are Leper Messiah and Damage Incorporated. With regard to Welcome Home Sanitarium's bass track, it's just too great to give up. As much as I would love to have one for Leper Messiah or Damage Incorporated, I would not do so at the expense of Sanitarium's, so the verdict is no, I would not trade. Welcome Home Sanitarium is done. Disposable Heroes is next. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is the Metallica Re-Remastered series. Stay tuned for more.